I'm AJ. So this is our also about industry. So the industry definition, this industry is one of the most significant industry around the countries, especially the first world countries, and they actually contribute to the major of the GDP, for example, in the US. And why is that? Because in US, auto manufacturing accounts for over 28%. And here are some key players, for example, Toyota in Japan and Ford Motor in the US. Okay, so for the bargaining power of suppliers, it mainly depends on the car company's influence. So if it's a big company's bargaining power of suppliers is low, because a lot of suppliers would actually want to work with them to provide a constant stream of revenue. And also, if it's a new entrant, for example, a new company, instead of being a low bargaining power, it will be a high bargaining power, because a lot of suppliers wouldn't want to work with them because they would have a small order and they would highly likely become bankrupt in the future, so they wouldn't want to work with them. And for the bargaining power of buyers, it's actually the highest. And why is that? Because there are so many brands and so many substitutions, so they have to listen to the customers. And here are the 5 factors that the car companies have to focus on, which is quality, trend, the price, the government subsidies, and the environmental awareness. For the threat of the new entrants, the biggest factor is the entry barrier, because to be a car manufacturer, you have to have a high initial capital. So you would have to use a lot of money to build a manufacturing facilities, distribution network, and to hire a lot of skilled staff. And also, the difficulty on having a reliable, effective production and supply chain would actually render stopping a lot of people from actually entering the industry. For the threat of substitutes, it also depends on different countries. For the first world countries where a lot of public transportation is available, people wouldn't actually want to buy the car that much, for example, in Taiwan. But if it's a third world countries, for example, in Thailand, where there's less bus and a lot of less public transportation, people would actually want to buy it. For the library, it is also the highest because right now there's an increasing trend of electrical vehicle. So a lot of people are switching from buying a normal car into an EV. The threat of competitors increase when competitors actually have the same utilization but cost in a cheaper price. So the companies have to focus on the uniqueness, the quality of the products, the price, how are they going to be financing the car, and also the after-sales service. So for the conclusion, the threat of the new entrant is low, the bargaining power of suppliers is low, bargaining power of buyers is high, just like I said, because they have to build a car on what we actually want. And for the substitute product, it depends on the countries, but it's usually low. And for the library, it's high. And for the managerial suggestion, for existing players, we would want to recommend them to actually develop a unique and core technologies or core competencies where one company will be able to distinguish themselves from the other competitors, and they would be recommended to find more opportunities in international trade, but a lot of them are doing it right now. For the new entrants, we want to let them focus on the price and the the unique and innovative technologies to be able to grab a niche market. And they should also be careful of learning about the different countries of regulation and policies and tariffs, because some countries have different tariffs and the policies. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So that's a very good time management. You spent like 4.5 minutes. Okay, thank you. I don't have further questions for you. I have to say that you set the bar very high. That's a very good presentation. Thank you very much. Okay, next group. I still remember what's the next airline industry.
Okay, so hi everyone. Our team is going to present the airline industry. So first, we'll separate our presentation into 3 parts. First is for industry definition, and second we will use part2 analysis to deeply analyze this industry. And the third part will do some managerial suggestion for this industry. So first, what is airline industry? So it's clearly that it's a company that provides air transport service for traveling passengers and freight. And for freight, it's kind of cargo that is transporting for goods. Yeah, and also airline can vary in different fields. Like there's international airlines, or regional airlines, or national airlines, and they have different competitors, and also they can differ based on their market. So in terms of airline industry, there are some key players, including travelers and which we call customers, also airline company, and they also have suppliers like fuel company or aircraft company, labor, etc. So here we take Taiwan airline industry as our example. So as you can see in the columns, EVA Airline and China Airlines plays the most important part of Taiwan's airline, and they have 50% market share in 2020. So next we are going to do further analyze on this industry.
So for the players, 5 versus analogs. The first one, bargaining power of the customer is strong. So we would say there are more budget airlines within the industry, like the Tiger Airline. And the online ticket platform for the customer, it's more easy to compare the pricing of the airline tickets. And the price info for them is more transparent. And the bargaining power of the supplier is strong as well. So there are 3 main suppliers, as we mentioned before, like including the fuel, aircraft, and labor. So their external factors influence them. For example, the oil price is fixed based on the global fluctuation. And the third of the new entrants is low. So the airline industry needs a huge capital investment to enter and to leave. So, which means this industry is hard to enter and hard to leave, and their fixed cost is high. So for the new entrants, threat is low. At the same time, the fourth one, the competitive rivalry is strong. And the fifth part is the third of the substitute product. So for the substitute here, we mentioned is within the national transport. So the passenger carrier, the substitute of the passenger carrier, we will say is the high-speed rail, and the substitute of the cargo, we will say is the sea freight.
So next part will go on to pricing?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember what's your management application?
For the, sorry, I think
Yeah, you can bring your laptop.
so for the existing players, we think that they should enhance the customer experiences. And how to enhance the customer experiences is like they can provide like one-stop service. They can collaborate with the hotels or car rentals companies to enhance the customer's experience traveling. And the next one is maintaining the customer loyalty. I think they can provide some reward redemption to maintain the customer loyalty. Like they accumulate the miles and they can pay as select shops in airports. Sorry. And next one, in the second part, for the new entrants, we think that they should to be differentiation. Yes, and we will take like Starlux company as example. They comparing to the EVA airline and China Airlines, they are some second mover in this industry. But like this is also their advantage. They can like be innovative and to be different to comparing to the EVA airlines. They, for example, they will provide a hot soup on the economy class, and this is what EVA airline and China Airlines cannot do it. And also they will be innovative on their decoration in the aircraft. Yeah, so we think the new entrance should be differentiation. It should be focused on differentiation, and that's the end of our presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can you go back to the slide with the 5 forces analysis? It's this one. Thank you. So, do you agree with their analytical results in terms of the airline industry? For instance, the third one, threat of new entrants. Yes, but perhaps in Taiwan, yes, because the airline industry is highly regulated by our governments. Obviously, if you want to enter this kind of industry, you need to get approval from the government. But if you put the airline industry elsewhere, for instance, at a global scale, I think the threat of new entrants is actually it's very strong, because you can easily just rent a plane and you can start your business. You don't actually need to pay much money. And the reservation system, they are all generic technology. You can easily get access from the App Store. You don't need to do it by yourself. Okay, so it depending upon which kind of level you've been analyzed. And also the final one, threat of substitutes. What are the substitutes for airline? I think you were mentioning about the trains. Any transportation vehicle can take you from place A to place B, right? Other than taking the flight, you can customize ourselves. We can take other vehicles to get the destinations we want. So I would say that threat of substitute product probably will be medium to high, not really low. Okay, that's my opinion. What about you? what do you think about?
For passenger, there are no other ways to go to other countries.
Car.
Yeah. You can use get out the boat.
Yeah, I mean, we are a small island. We're surrounded by the sea, right? It's relatively for us to, yeah, from Taiwan to other countries, obviously. But if you take the countries like a big country like America, it's the other case, right?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, like if we're not just talking about Taiwan, I live in Europe, and to get to one country in Europe to another, it's way more cheaper to use low-cost airlines than to use trains, because, like, unfortunately, it's not good for the climate. But so I just want to say that it's way more advantageous for the passengers taking it.
Yeah, of course, especially taking into account the budget airline in Europe, right? And but when we talk about substitutes, when the substitute has the strongest effect on your industry, if they are competing with you in price. So in the case of Europe, European railway, obviously it's very expensive. If we've been there, the train tickets is really high. So they would say that the substitutes of these kind of products will be very low, right? This very product will be low in Europe. Okay, but like I just said, depending upon the areas will be analyzed. Thank you. Next group. So which will be the next group? Maybe. There will be energy.
Okay, good afternoon. Okay, we focus on energy industry. Okay, so the definition here, we focus on those firms offering gasoline in Taiwan. And there are two key players in the oligopolistic Taiwan gasoline markets. They are respectively CPC and FPC. CPC 中国石油 ，FPC 福尔摩沙那个台塑的那个福尔摩沙。Okay, so this is our conclusion, and let's see why. Okay, so first, competition within the industry is quite low because it's like a duopoly. But let me mention that basically these two firms import crude oil for different purposes. CPC, CPC is the main supplier of gasoline in Taiwan. But for the FPC, those gasoline in gas station is like side product. They use crude oil to make product like to make other industrial product. So it is a duopoly. Okay, so the threat of new entrant is also low because government poses high regulation on this industry. So we can see that actually in Taiwan, the price of gasoline do not fluctuate very much. So we are also not that hurt by the inflation. Okay. And another reason why the threat of new entrant is low is because the economies of scale in this industry. Because once the distribution channel, the distribution network is constructed, the existing firms can transport this gasoline with very low cost. But the new entrant cannot do this. Okay, the bargaining power of buyers. So it's low. We are all price takers at the gas station, right? You can't just say, can you make a cut on my refueling? No, all you can do is just go to the self-service 自助加油, self-service refueling and save few monies. Okay, few monies. And the bargaining power of suppliers. We know that there is an evil organization called OPEC. They have various weapons to control the capacity, to reduce the quantity supply and make the price high. So the bargaining power of supplier is high. Okay, and the threat of substitute. Now the threat of substitute in gasoline is is relatively low, but it is increasing because of the trend of new energies such as sustainable energies, or in terms of the automobile market. We know that the electronic automobiles great plays increasing the important role. So there is increasing threat of substitutes. Okay, so the managerial suggestion is here for existing players. This is provided by a guy who majored in finance, because we know that, especially recently, crude oil price fluctuate a lot. So if you don't want, if you are a firm providing gasoline and you want to avoid this, you can use financial instrument to hedge it. Okay, and for potential entrants, so because as we mentioned before, if you want to sell gasoline in Taiwan, you need to get permission, and it is highly controlled by two firms. And for CBC, it is actually backed up by the government. So our suggestion is that do not directly battle in the gasoline market, but focus on other kind of energies.
Okay, please turn back to the last page.
Last page.
Yeah, this one.
Okay.
So you have different five forces. Do you agree with their results, especially for the first one, the existing competition of the rivalry? They say it's really low in the context of Taiwan. Is there any reason to support your argument? Because even though we know that there's only two dominant players in the market right now, right?
And as I mentioned that provide for FPC, they actually focus on importing crude oil and provide.
Yeah, they are taking responsibility of different businesses areas, right? In that case, so you don't think they are competing with each other?
I think they are competing with each other, but the competition is actually, if you go to you can compare these two brands of gas station. I think the price is there are no major difference.
Yeah, they're pretty much the same, right? That's because because of nature of market, only two players. If one player change the price, the other player will follow.
Mm-hmm. And also, so we know the price has no major difference. And also, you can say this is basically identical product.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because 有人是说始终有可以跑比较远，我自己觉得是就这样了。
Okay, but I would say that in this particular industry, gasoline industry in Taiwan, for instance, I would say the competitive level will be quite high, especially if there are only two dominant players in the markets. They are competing with each other directly. So this is an example. For instance, if you belong to, for instance, you are the manager of Formosa Group. Okay? Yeah. Now you know that your market is shrinking. As a comparison, of course, the CPC is much larger part, right? Now you want to leave the market because of the shrinking businesses. Do you think that your competitor will be happy?
Yes.
Yes? What about if you are the manager in CPC, will you be happy to see the Formosa Group leave the market? Yes?
Why not?
Just have a second thought of that. Can you supply the all capacity of the customers in Taiwan just because of the Formosa Group leave the market? Can you supply the whole market?
If you can't supply the whole market, just raise the price.
Yeah, as long as you can supply the whole market, you will be happy, right? But right now, you probably only have a limited capacity. If your competitor leave the market, then you probably will be a chaos in the market right now. And you are not happy to see that. So that's why I don't even know that these two companies actually they formed an agreement of certain kind of the coalition between these two. They try to avoid the other player exit the market. So this market can be categorized as a very high exit barrier. If you want to leave the market, there's no way. And not to mention that this market has been highly regulated by our governments right now. So it's even harder for you to leave the market because the government will say no. How dare you do that? So I just want to add up something to your analysis. But the rest of the analysis is good. Thank you very much. Thank you. The next group will be healthcare.
Okay. Hear me? Hello? Yes, okay, it does. Okay, so we are for the healthcare. And as the healthcare is quite a big industry, we chose to focus on the American market, in which we focus on the hospital services, the private clinics also, and a little bit of the biotech companies. Insurance should be included, but as everything is quite big, we chose to leave out the insurance. And for the key players, there are 5 key players in the American market. And yeah, just for your vision, American market is in trillions, so a huge healthcare industry. So for the new entrants, there's an economy of scale already present at the American market. So hospitals, their medical equipment and drug cost negotiations are going on intensively, and new entrants are very difficult to enter. Product differentiation, so only the quality is a difference. Yeah, other than that, like it's very hard for new healthcare institutes to enter the market because it's so heavily already occupied. And the buyers?
And so here we define buyer as a patient in the healthcare industry. And there is an information asymmetry between patient and the hospital, such as the patient will not understand how the treatment and the diagnosis from doctors. And the second is this non-negotiable price situation on hospital operations. If the patient needs to do a surgery, they cannot bargain the surgery price and the medical expense. And so the conclusion is from the buyers have very limited bargaining power.
Okay, so the next part is suppliers. First we define suppliers as the health equipment producers. And our conclusion is that the bargaining power of the suppliers is quite high. There are three reasons. First, because those producers, they have very high R&D costs. Because you know the whole kind of medical health equipment are kind of high-tech equipment, so it costs a lot. So it also results in only few key suppliers of equipment to the healthcare industry. And also, if those suppliers they integrate it with each other, they will gain their bargaining power will get better. So like. Yeah, so the bargaining power from the suppliers is very high.
Yeah, okay, so we're not going to talk about substitutes. Basically, there's no really substitutes for healthcare. I mean, you can try whatever you want, but I think if you get sick, you pretty much need to get attention, right? So the conclusion would be like the risk for substitutes is pretty low. That about the competitive rivalry. So the US market is really like a large market, the third largest industry in the US. And we thought that the fixed costs are pretty high, so for new entrants it's pretty hard to get to the market. And the industry growth is not that big if you compare it to the investment that you need to get access to the market. So furthermore, like the medical procedure are pretty standardized, so there's a lack of differentiation for the different players in the industry, which make it hard to, let's say, get more value for what you propose from it. And furthermore, because we're talking about healthcare, high urgency operation conduct without patient consultation. It's just like, it means if you need to get treatment, you don't care anymore where the treatment is coming from or what kind of product you're gonna take, and you just need to urgently take it. So there's no real choice from the customer or from the patient. So yeah, in conclusion, the competitive rivalry is pretty high, and new player on the market is pretty possible.
So as for our conclusion, we don't think that entering the healthcare industry is very attractive. There's intense competition, and I think for our existing players it would be to focus on improving their technological improvements, focus on R&D, and also focus very much on the customer experience, so patients and their well-being. And for our new entrants, we would only say that if you're going to enter, focus on the IT part, so maybe do medical attention, provide medical attention with Internet of Things, maybe connect smartwatches or anything. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. So I agree with you of your analytical results in each of these aspects, but I just want to add on something, because in the first slide you talk about insurance companies as one of the players in the industry, right? But I would say that in the case of the American healthcare industry, the insurance company actually are the payer. They pay, right? They are direct customers. So patients could be one of the potential buyers, but insurance company are the key, right? And I agree with you that the buyer's bargaining power is quite low, because you actually get special treatment from the hospitals. And the suppliers, you said very high, but you only mentioned about health equipment. But I would just say that.
Andrew.
Yeah, also doctors, the nurses, and labor unions working in the companies, they're actually very strong bargaining power as a supplier themselves. Okay. And substitutes, you say in the case of America, it's quite low, right? But if we change the context, for instance, in China or in Taiwan, they will be quite high, because we have many alternative treatment, medical, non-medical ones, not to mention about Chinese medicine, right? So I think that's a very good analysis. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Next one. So we have, let me see, pharmaceutical. Yes.
Hello. So our part is a pharmaceutical industry part, and this one. Okay, and so first, every definition our industry. So we find the definition of the pharmaceutical part is we discover and develop and produce the marketing drugs or pharmaceutical drugs for the user as a medication to be administered to patients, and with the aim to cure them and sometimes vaccine them or alleviate the symptoms. And we find three companies as our key player. They are Pfizer, as you know, Huawei, and Baby, and J&J, as we know, Johnson. And the reason why we choose these three companies as our key player, because they are the largest company in the pharmaceutical section in the world in 2022.
Okay, I'm going to talk about the 5 forces of pharmaceutical industry. First, bargaining power of suppliers is weak, because the raw materials of vaccine development are similar. And second, bargaining power of consumers is strong, because of the little switching cost and customers have a lot of choice. And third of new entrants is weak because the products of pharmaceutical industry are protected by patent and the industry requires high fixed cost, so it is difficult for the new to enter this industry. And fourth, the threat of substitute product is weak because no effective substitute products exist in the market in the short run. The last one is competitive rivalry within this industry is strong because many existing competitors in this industry now.
Okay, so we have some managerial suggestions for the existing players of the pharmaceutical industry. The first one is because there is high risk that new products of the pharmaceutical companies will fail. So the companies should increase the R&D budget so that they can increase the possibility of developing successful products. And the second suggestion is that because many of the pharmaceutical products are very similar, so the companies should focus more on product differentiation, such as expanding the product line. And the last suggestion is that the companies should focus more on CSR to increase their brand value and the customer loyalty so that they can increase their own revenue. And our suggestions for the new entrants is that because the pharmaceutical industry has very high risk and it requires high fixed cost, so the new entrants should have some unique abilities such as their technology or their capital. And they can also use some strategic alliances to reduce the risk in the industry. So this is our presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Again, can you remain on the page of your analytical results about the 5 forces? Yes. So I want to pose the question to the whole class. Do you agree with their results? For instance, suppliers. Who are the suppliers of this industry? Pharmaceutical industry. Who are the suppliers? Who supplies materials to this industry? What are the main materials of this industry? Of course, chemicals, right? So the chemical firms will be their major suppliers, right? But of course, we need to mention about the many doctors in this industry as a labor and human resource supplies. But let's take example of the chemical firms. In relation to the chemical firms, do you think the pharmaceutical firms they have stronger or weaker bargaining power? Yes.
It depends how many players there is in the.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have only 1 or 2 suppliers, then the suppliers have a lot of power.
Mm-hmm. It also depends on how rare or how unique of the raw materials you need. Right? If you want to produce certain types of drugs, obviously probably you need some uniqueness of your chemical. Maybe you need some compounds, formulas, so on and so forth. But in relation to the pharmaceutical firms, I think chemicals are not only supply the chemicals to this industry. They've got many customers. For instance, cosmetic industry, they use a lot of chemicals. And food industry, not to mention that, they use a lot of chemicals. We eat a lot of chemicals every day, right? So I would say the bargaining power suppliers in this industry will be kind of medium to strong, not necessarily very weak, okay? And what about the customers? Who are the customers who purchase the drugs? Who are the direct customer, immediate customer of this industry? Hospitals, yes, not the patient, actually the hospitals or the insurance companies or governments, right? So I would say their bargaining power would be not really strong because that's you need to purchase this type of drugs from company A, and also these drugs are protected by the patents. If they won't supply the drugs to you, then you can't buy anything partisan from elsewhere.
Unless like there's law that certain drugs, like that the law from a country is able to protect against certain prices.
Yes, exactly.
So then that would be strong good, I'd say.
Yeah, so it depends on what kind of country, what kind of context we've been investigating, right? But for instance, in Taiwan, the pharmaceutical, the customers, actually the insurance company, the governments themselves. I would say our government's bargaining power in relation to the pharmaceutical is really weak. Okay. They can only buy one price on the drugs. Okay. Thank you for the presentation. Let's speed down the presentation to the next one. There will be, which one? There will be retail industry.
Hi everyone. Our group will introduce the retail because the retail is too wide range, so we will just focus on traditional retail of furniture in Taiwan. Okay, and this is our group member. And okay, let's first talk about the definition of retail. Well, retailers means the sale of goods to the public in relatively small quantities for use for consumption rather than for resale. And also, the definition of retail of furniture is establishments that offer a wide assortment of furniture products for sale to the general public. And okay, let's talk about the key players. And the key players is we just sorted into three kinds of. And the first is the traditional retail of furniture in Taiwan, and just like some famous streets in Taiwan, like Wencangjie or Nanchang Jiajujie. And the second is like order or scanty, and it's the furniture are all mainly made from the wood in those company. And the second is some big company like Nitori, IKEA, and Ola, and they just sell things that are all the same. Okay, and just and we introduce about the 5 forces analysis, and the first is the threat of new entrants. And it's little because there's few laws limitation, and people's loyalty to the brands can easily change. And sorry, we have the wrong information. Sorry.
I have a typo for this column. We think the threat of new entrants is high because there are a few laws limitation for this industry, and people's loyalty to these brands in this industry can easily change. So there are more easily for new entrants into this industry. So the threat is high.
Okay, and the second is the bargaining power of consumer is high because the consumers there can just bargain with the price very easily because, for example, when the chair is the price of the chair is, for example, 3,300, the customers may ask for lower, for example, 3,000. And the third is the bargaining power of suppliers. For example, for wood, it's very high because we think that its usage can only be made into furniture. But when it comes to screw and paint, it's very low because the retailers of furniture may not be the main buyers of screw and paint. And the third is competitive rivalry within an industry. It's high because there's a bunch of competitors in the industry. Well, just as what I said, like Ola or B&Q, they will all compete with the traditional furnitures in Taiwan. Okay, and the last is the substitute product. It's low because we can have other things to substitute for furniture. And it is our managerial suggestions. And the first is we have to design more elaborate furniture and have more high quality consumer service. For example, we just repair the furniture for free, or just to take care of the service for the consumers. And the last is the product differentiation. Is just to say the traditional furniture has just to design their own feature. And for example, European style furniture or Chinese style furniture. Okay, and this is our introduction. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think the analysis is really good, especially focus on very niche markets in Taiwan, right? And you understand the market, what are key players, and also what will be the surrounding context of them in terms of these 5 forces. I think they are all correct. Thank you very much. Next one, the final group, it will be the new emerging industry called video streaming industry.
And our topic is video streaming. And the definition of the industry is that videos on platforms serve from the server to customer, like movies or series, and it enables users to view the content online without downloading it. And we think the key players are like Netflix, Disney+, HBO+, Amazon Prime, Hulu, Apple TV.
So let me introduce 5 forces. And the first one is competitive rivalry within industry. And I think it's pretty high, very competitive, because those companies will fight over customers by providing famous show or producing good quality show. So they all try to stand out from others to lock in their users. And the second one is bargaining power of suppliers. And we also think bargaining power of suppliers is very high, because like the producer can choose from many companies like Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime. They can choose which one to get the copyrights to present their show. And the third one would be bargaining power of customers. And I think the power of the individual customer is low, since the different suppliers offer different content. So it's in the interest of the customer to purchase several platform services. Yes, and because perhaps you want to watch Friends, and the only way is to subscribe Netflix. So I think if you want to watch a specific show, the bargaining power of the customer is pretty low. Yes, and let's move on to the 4th forces.
So the threat of new entrants. We would say that the market is quite stagnant at the moment, and that the room for new suppliers are a bit more limited. If this would be the case 5 years ago, then we would see that there's a lot of different groups that are not right now covered, but right now the market has many different suppliers. Therefore, we do think that the different brands are trying to find their part of the customers, and therefore the threat is lower now than a few years ago. Also, the threat for substitute products, it's low. We do think that yes, if you can find a legal version online, you will use that one instead. But otherwise, what the biggest threat would be is if they have to add more to the price, like it would be a lot more expensive to buy these services, then probably people will look at whether it's worth to do something else with their spare time and use other things like YouTube or TikTok for shorter clips instead of watching series like binge watching.
Yeah, so now our suggestions for the existing players. We think that you really need to differ from your other competitors, because you have a lot of suppliers already. So you really need to make sure that the people come to you. And therefore we think you have to offer different services. So for example, Disney Plus offers only Disney movies, and Netflix offers movies you can only watch on Netflix. So they really need to do this. And another thing is that they can ask the user to pay more to watch the content earlier. For example, you can have a special app. If you pay more, you can see your favorite series a week earlier than the rest. So that's why the customer will stay to you. And for new entrants, we think we can provide free content since it's quite costly, and every supplier is asking a different price. So if you can provide free content, you can attract as many users as possible. And furthermore, since there are already a lot of suppliers, we really need to make a platform that's not existing, because everyone in the world knows, for example, Netflix, and they will not come to you as a new one. So otherwise, you need to stay away. Thank you for listening, and this was our presentation.
Okay, thank you. Can you return to the last page about the spread of new entrants and substitutes? Yeah, this one. So what do you think about the results? For instance, the substitutes. Substitutes. What are substitutes? You want to add something?
My point is about entrance. I think the potential entrants can easily get into the market, so we can see many, maybe it's not illegal firms providing free videos online, and they can provide it without any marginal cost. So I think it is quite easy to enter.
Yeah. What do you think about the new entrants? Is it high, low, medium? What could be the new entrants for this particular industry?
It could be high by setting the price very low so that people can be more attracted to your services than Netflix is, for instance.
Yeah, that just ask a question to yourself. If you don't watch Netflix, what would you watch? Yeah, YouTube. Anything else? You're just browsing the social media website, or we watch the cable TV, traditional cable TVs at home, right? So these are the substitutes for this particular industry. So I would say that I want to highlight the sort of substitutes here. I would say it's very high, okay, right now. Okay. But for the new entrants, like we just said earlier, traditional TV cable provider, they can be the new entrants for this industry if they all transfer their all the contents of the TV purely online. They can easily do that, right? So the new entrants, they can easily get into the markets. And not to mention that YouTube or other free platform, they can start switching their price point from free to you need to do the subscription to them. For instance, YouTube, they started a premium channel right now, so you need to pay in order to watch more. So that's another way you enter the markets.
Yeah, we got that point. We also discussed it together, but because we focused on the video streaming and because Netflix is offering different videos than, for example, Disney Plus, and on YouTube you can only watch their short movies. So we thought that's why it's quite stagnant, because Netflix is already existing, and if like another platform will come, you need to be really different that the customer comes to you. Otherwise.
Yeah, I agree with you that by the loss of your suggestion about for the new entrants in particular, you need to provide very unique content in order to attract the new customers, right?
Because I think it's very easy to enter it because
yeah, it's easy to enter, but it's hard to survive, right?
So that's why we thought we made it this way.
Yeah, I agree with you most of the time. Thank you very much. Honestly, I didn't expect that we would spend much time on this presentation. So let me check. I think let's talk more something about important, and we'll go back to the lecture contents. So this is the group allocation for your international expansion project, especially for the phase 1. You need to do the global sourcing, cross-sorting our global database. So let me check if you can locate the global database. Okay, so this is the database shared by the whole class. Okay, so if you, for instance, if you are like group 1, there's 4 people here, then you will take in charge of the number 1 to number 10 countries here. Okay, and you just select 10 countries in the region, and then to locate the data, and you've got all the data sources in the first column here. Okay, so in next week, we're gonna do the first 2 indicators presentations. Economic aspects and also business environment aspects. Okay, and for the presentation itself, I think I stated it here in the syllabus. No. Okay, here. So next we're gonna do an online presentation, so we don't need to come into the class. Okay, so we just purely do it online, and the TA gonna announce the link for you to enter the online session. And there are 2 indicators you need to present, including the economic and also business environment indicators. And for the presentation format, just electronic file, and you need to prepare for 10 minutes presentation. And in the presentation, you need to share your data, of course. So probably you can talk a little bit about a snapshot of the data in your region, about these 2 indicators, and highlights of data, such as the common trend or any abnormal trends you found in your data set. And also, if it's possible, you can state the reason why there's a variation among the countries being selected in your region. And I think the most important will be the third part about managerial implication here. So they've got several questions to be answered. The first one is that if you picture me as a foreign investor, so you are presenting me, okay? So which country or region, which country or countries in your assigned world region has the most investment potential? You need to convince me, okay? So what are the investment opportunities there? And how would you suggest me to seize these opportunities? And finally, when not investing in your countries, is there any foreseeable investment risks I should bear in mind, or any challenges throughout the investment process, and how to minimize such risks? Okay, so this is a series of questions you need to be prepared for the presentation. Okay. And also you will be asked questions by me as well, another Q&A session. Okay. I just want to make sure you have no problem with that. Do you have any question about the presentation I'm going to do next week? No? Do you all fully aware about the group?
Yes.
Okay, good. Perfect. Let's go back to here. So I don't think we have enough time for the rest of the lecture. So what I would suggest is that I will leave the rest of the lecture to be discussed online next week. So in the beginning, for the first hour next week, we're gonna quickly go through the contents we discussed today. So we're gonna teach you how to utilize the model, okay, and how you can examine the model, what kind of question you need to ask after you finish your analysis by forces. And in addition to identify the threats from the external environment, I'm gonna also talk about how to identify the opportunities in the industry level. Okay, so we're gonna do a little bit discussion later on that. So it probably takes up to 1 hour to finish the whole lecture on that. And after that, we're gonna do the presentation all by you, okay? So if it's okay, then I will see you online next week, okay? Thank you.
等下聊其他教练公司，要把这些东西要教育，然后对，好，赶快。